I say that? Because when I talk about heaven on earth, God's not talking about let's make a unity of Christians and we close our doors to the world and we make this perfect little community where we can hide and live and in our own life and shut off the whole world. That's what he was doing, shutting off the whole world. We'll live in this little community and we'll get along fine. You ever live with another Christian? Are they perfect? Does that mean because we all live together, we're going to get along? No. So he went to John Alexander Dowie, and Dowie prayed for his brother, and his brother got well, some radical diseases, and then his sister too. And his wife later had heart problems, heart failure. They kept giving her dosages of stimulants to kind of get her heart regular. They started giving her glycerin to try and get her heart to beat. And she was taking so much glycerin for this heart problem that it would literally, I don't know if anybody take any glycerin for heart problem, but it literally, if you take too much, it puts your whole body in a stiffened place. You can't do anything but lay down and you're stuck. You can't even move. And don't ask me how you go to the bathroom. I don't know. But his wife was just dying there, and he saw his brother get saved. He saw his sister get saved, and he couldn't take her to Dowie this time. She was going to die, and he just got fed up. Anybody? Do you ever get fed up? Amen. I get fed up. And he just got fed up. He's like, man, I know, God, you're real. I know you can do. See how his story is so important? He took his story, John G. Lake's story, and saw his brothers and sister get saved or healed and then saved. He's like, man, I'm going to take his story, and it's my story, it's his story, and believe God for her story, and prayed for her, and wrote a text or a telegram to Dowie. Pray for my wife, He's like, okay, I'm praying for her. But he prayed for her, and she got completely healed. Completely. Wow. The newspapers heard it, and they printed it all over the United States. This normal guy in Midwest Kansas prayed for his wife, and she got healed. And so people were flooding to his house, and he's like, holy cow, what am I doing? I'm just a guy. What are you doing in my house, right? Maybe you feel like that? What story do I have to share? What gospel of peace do I walk in? I don't have any good news, but the good news is you just have to believe. And so he believed, and she was healed, and this started this ministry for John G. Lakes. He's like, wow, God is real. And he had a burden to go to Africa. And he went to Africa from 1908 to 1912, and he prayed for people and started church, hundreds of churches, and he prayed for people, brought his family with him, and then in the middle of this black plague broke, and millions of people were dying all over. And he didn't know how to stop it. He's like, God, how do you stop this? What's going on? And he prayed and sought the Lord. And then one day he went to this girl's house, and she was dying, and the neighbor's dying. And he's like praying for her and believing God for this healing. And this little girl gets healed. And then he's like, oh, this is big. So he starts praying for everybody that he can. And these people are he'd drive by them and they'd get healed. I don't know if his shadow fell on them or not, right? But he would just drive by and people would be healed. And he was so bold in his faith by that. He was like, he would go to doctors and say, take the foam, because their lungs would fill with foam and full of bacteria. And it was so transferable that, the doctors were afraid to even get near these dead people. And so he's like, they asked him, how do you stay healthy? He's like, take that foam out of that dead man's lungs and put it on my hand. And look through your little microscope and watch what that foam will do. And it would die in his hand. And they were fascinated by that. They were like, oh my gosh, what faith can do for you. And he was just a normal man. Why am I telling you this story? Because it's his story. And it's your story. It doesn't take anybody abnormal, especially spiritual, especially gifted to speak in tongues or do this or do that. Or it takes faith believing God. I just believe God. And that's all he did. He just got fed up. I'm fed up with this stuff. And believe God for this. So hundreds of people were healed by that, and they were just so amazed by that. And he came back to America and had a ministry in America and moved to Seattle, Washington. And from, I think it was 1920 to 1925, it was the healthiest city in all the United States because he made these homes. They were called healing houses. And what did he do in those homes? He empowered people. Just folks, right? Just people to go to those homes and pray for sick. He said, don't leave until they're well and just believe for them. And people would be healed all over the city, all over Washington state. They were so healthy in Seattle, Washington, they brought a little plaque for him and told him, because of your church, this is the healthiest city in the whole United States. And the Better Business Bureau got involved. They were pretty mad about it because they're like, what are you doing, you know? You're acting like a doctor without a license. This is not legal, right? So they came in there. They're ticked. He's like, okay, what do you want to do? Well, we want to interview. Oh, come on. He brought hundreds of people to the interview. And he said, now on Sunday, now that we did all these interviews, now on Sunday, I want you to come to church and bring a panel. Bring doctors, lawyers, government, I don't care. Bring a panel of people to this church, and I'll bring you the healed. And they called him up and said, we don't need to do that. You know why? Because you didn't tell us half of what was really happening when we interviewed people. Power of God moved and changed their lives. We believe you. We see you. Why were they converted? I wouldn't be surprised that you had people in the Better Business Bureau receiving Jesus. There's this one testimony that he brought a doctor in. He said, bring me a patient from your hospital that has a gimpy leg or a bad leg, and whatever it is, I don't care. Just bring me a person and put some devices on that so you can see this leg and what it's doing, whatever those are. He gives, just give me enough room to be able to touch it. I don't care. Put as many devices on that leg as you want. Give me enough room to pray. And they brought this man in, and he had a gimpy leg and whatever it was, cancer, bone cancer, I don't know, whatever it was. And then he prayed over him, and he said, what do you see? And they're looking, and they're like, oh my gosh, every cell in his leg's responding to your prayer. And his leg fully became filled and fully healed. They're like, holy Lord, right? I hope they said Lord. Why do I tell you that? Because that's his story. And that's your story. That in this third great awakening, just like all the first ones, they're preparing us to unify us. For what? Something's coming. And why is the media working so hard to divide us? Why is it, well, we have so many, how many denominations of Baptists do we have? I think we have like 3,500 denominations of Baptists, different Baptist groups. First Baptist.